Hello, my name is Justin,
I'm Blasterboy.
and we will be casting Machi eSports versus the Taipei Assassins in the LMS Spring Playoffs. So this isn't an official broadcast or anything, so we're only recording our audio. So if you're not watching this through crossfade.io, the link to Garina's actual VOD is in the description, and you can sync up the video to our timer and turn down the audio. So before this game actually starts, I'll be doing my best to translate, but I'm not a native Chinese speaker, so bear with me. Okay, so the playoffs for LMS will be 3 days of best of fives, and it's a gauntlet style, which means that uh, it's not bracket style where we have best of, round of eight and round of four. It'll be similar to the gauntlet qualifiers for Worlds last year for the NALCS. And the first team coming out of a tiebreaker versus HKE actually, so barely making it in, is Machi Esports. And it looks like TPA are back in the playoffs. TPA is almost like the Asian version of Fnatic. You know, there was that one year where they won it all and then kind of fell back a little bit in the international scene. Definitely still strong, but that world championship was definitely the peak. We don't see a lot of familiar names anymore either, other than the name that's coming up right now, or after Fofo. And we have the original Blue Ezreal player himself, BB, still on TPA after almost 4 years on and off that organization. And these are some of the happiest League of Legends pro players I've ever seen.
Indeed.
Okay, looking at the caster predictions, and looks like all five of them are actually very heavily biased towards TPA, which is strange because I'm pretty sure their last matchup they did go 1-1. So personally, I believe this game could go either way. They say that it's been a long time since the last week of regular season matches, so there's bound to be a lot of new strategies that came out. Higher seed actually selects their side on games 1, 3, and 5, and you see the results of those choices here.
Yeah, should be a really interesting match here, I feel. We did see these teams play just a little while ago, and they did go 1-1, like you said, but with the break, I mean, this is likely going to be on a new patch from what the regular season games were on, so we might be seeing quite a few new picks and bans coming through here.
Yeah, we did see a lot of trying Riot doing a little bit to tone down the tank meta. Of course, still very strong on this patch, but we'll have
Yeah,
to
well,
see if that affects the old LMS style of lane swap until 25 minutes. I really hope that we don't see that today, but
yeah.
we might be in for the long haul in this one. Um, we actually have some player interviews happening right now. You see Machi on your screen right now. This is Dreamer, their support player. So Machi likes to use their jungler to start fights, relying on that aggression to gain an advantage in the early game. Um, we have some pocket picks like Cassiopeia, champs that other teams aren't familiar with, just so that we can catch them off guard. Taizan is their jungler. I think our strength lies in the early game momentum because I'm more likely to gank than other junglers. Dreamer says that this is actually their first time in a best of 5. And so they've been training specifically for that. I think the first or second games in a best of 5 probably a good time to try new strategies. But in the fourth or fifth game, it really just comes down to raw skill. Taizan says that there are a couple champs really often banned against them, like Dreamer's Alistar, Bobo's Trundle, or his Gragas. So they had to learn new picks just for playoffs, just to expand their champion pool and circumvent these bans. Their biggest weakness is their mid to late game, saying that their jungler often gets caught out or throws the game. I think TPA is a very mature team with a lot of tournament experience. I think he means that they're good at skirmishes, but I think the 5-on-5 team fight's not so much. And so he believes that they will win the team fights. Dreamer says that TPA is a very much experienced team, but they can also be very standard and predictable. So they're slower to react, and that can actually lose them games. So they believe they're better, or Machi believes that they're better at team fights. So if they can force the fights, then they can win. They're most worried about Bobo's play because Morning's top lane play is top notch. So he believes that Machi is a strong team and can beat anyone, and that they can be like HQ last year and win the entire tournament from the fourth seed. So this is TPA their support. Last year we didn't make the playoffs, so this is our chance to show our strength. I came back to TPA to win the championship and play with them at MSI. And that was BB, who announced his retirement last year, but is actually back for another bout. Um, he says that TPA has done a lot of improvement in their team fighting and something else, so at least if you can fix those issues, then they're okay. Jay's been working on, it sounds like, his TP plays, and it sounds like a sore point for his play, and that he believes that he could fix it, then they can win. He considers himself a very strong AD player, so that's an advantage for their team. He thinks Jay is a better initiator than most supports in the league. He thinks, as a bot lane, that they're both very strong together, and there isn't another bot lane in the league that can really beat them. He knows that Machi is normally a very aggressive team and they really like to fight. But they're similar to TPA as in they play a good early game, but they can't really finish out the games. So they just have to be careful of Machi's early ganks. And that they can win the game in the mid to late game if they're able to pull through with an advantage or without losing an advantage. And BB actually believes that they're stronger at all points in the game. So there's no way that they can lose. Jay has a lot of faith in the training that they've been doing over the last couple of weeks in communication and team fighting and or fight decision making, if that makes sense. So here come the statistics. We're going to spend some time talking about stats, and it should be pretty impressive. We see Machi, decidedly the statistics sound a little bit middle of the pack, or look a little bit middle of the pack, with a 55% win ratio when you take the individual games into account. And about as average as you can get in the win-loss draw department. 20 points meaning that in their league, I believe that counts towards like Worlds qualification at the end of the year and also seeding into the playoffs. With 3 points awarded for victories and 1 point awarded for draws, I believe. So it's the first time Machi's in the playoffs, as they covered before. And they're actually only the sixth organization in the LMS to do so. And it does sound pretty familiar. I mean, the names that we've always been hearing, the names that eventually make it to the world stage are people like the Flash Wolves and HQ. They've been around forever. So Machi is definitely not a part of the old guard. And the casters are affirming the what we covered in the interviews, that all five of these people are very strong in the early game. Mid lane or middle game, they start to fall off a little bit, and then late game can turn into a little bit of a mess. And Bobo actually has some very impressive statistics right here. 3 KDA is really not that bad for a top laner, but the most important part is his very high gold share and damage share amongst top laners. And that makes me wonder a little bit, because in such a top lane tank centric tank centric meta, maybe it's a sign that he's taking that priority away from his carries, and maybe that's what affects them in the mid to late game. And Caster is harping back to one match that they had versus TPA, where I think it sounds like he didn't freeze the lane properly, didn't play the lane correctly as Maokai, and he just spent that entire game useless. Calling out Taizan's first blood participation statistic, which is actually first amongst all players in the league. And this is a fourth place team. And also first amongst, I couldn't see if it was all players or junglers, but wards killed per minute. Very high in that department as well. He said Big Brother when he referred to these fans that they're pointing to in the stands right now. I don't know if he actually means literal brother, but Machi with their fair share of their fanboys. Okay, a 4.42 KDA for Dreamer, very high in the support department, but most impressively is that he has 1,483 wards placed this entire season, which is actually first amongst all players. And we see that 77% kill participation, also second place amongst all players. They're talking about Machi's style is more likely to go towards kills, especially with early gank pressure from Taizan, whereas other teams are often to trade turrets, trade objectives. Machi just wants blood. Now we're looking at TPA or Taipei Assassins, a little bit more impressive. Third place seed coming into this playoffs. And that's a fairly big difference in win rate if you consider it from a statistical standpoint. Oh, whoops. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about for sync issues. Oh, did have a little bit of a sync issue right there, but we're back at 21 minutes and 10 seconds into the video now. Talking about gold advantage at 20, first amongst all teams actually. And also a 0.75 wards placed per minute stat amongst the entire team, which is actually first place in the league. And we have Morning first place in both CS difference and gold difference at 10 minutes, and a very high 6.9 KDA. So this is what Machi was referring to earlier in the interview. Morning seems like a powerhouse in the top lane, and they're gonna have to work hard to shut him down if they want to win these. If they want any chance of winning this series. And Fofo with a similarly high KDA at 6.5. First place in CS difference at 10th, but only amongst mid laners, but he still comes away with the Rookie of the Split award. And it sounds like casters appear to think that he is lacking in experience, but did liken him to the likes of Flash Wolf's Maple. I'm not sure what they mean by LMS first place AD. I think they might be talking about some sort of all-star squad. But BB also very high in the statistics department. So we see success stories all around for TPA so far and amongst their carries. Okay, and we're into picks and bans.
All right. So we see the first few bans coming out pretty quickly here. We've got Nidalee and Trundlebolt taken off the table. The next one has already come through from Machi, and it will be LeBlanc, actually. So we're seeing really no particular focus quite yet, but with that Gragas ban, that's 2 jungle bans already, and these are coming through very, very quickly. So just to talk about these pretty briefly, LeBlanc is very strong into a lot of mid lane matchups, which is why she's taken off the table. It looks like, actually, are we going to see Azir get through? We will. Azir did not get through in TPA versus Machi in the last time they met, so this is very interesting. But here comes Tank Echo, most likely going to Bobo in that top lane. A very quick lock-in from Machi, very strong pick.
And Machi predicting their opponents' bans perfectly, if you remember from that pregame interview. Trundle, Gragas, and Alistar taken away from them immediately. TPA definitely doing their homework, but if what Machi says is true about their preparation coming into this series, we might see them have even more tricks up their sleeves. Now, Sivir, not as popular in NA, but I'm glad to see that LMS is in tune with how strong she really is, and of course Azir comes in for the second ban. They're not going to pass that champion up.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to see that come through here. Very, very strong. Like I said, banned away in both of the games from Machi and TPA at the end of the regular season. And so that's a pretty big deal for anybody to be getting that in the LMS. Apparently, we will be seeing Kindred and Braum as the next 2 picks for Machi. So quite a lot of tankiness and a lot of zone control and protection for their team right now. Have to see what they end up following this up with. They're leaving their ADC and mid laner for last, but then again on the opposite side, TPA, they're pretty decisive with what they want to do. They want to run you down with this Sivir composition. They have a Poppy to facilitate that even further, and the Graves that really just wants to get right up in your face as well. So this is a pretty scary comp from them so far. They have a lot of damage. This might even be a Poppy flex down to Jay in the bottom lane as well. We don't know exactly what morning we'll be playing, but there is still room for him to choose something else.
And all I see is some very short-ranged answer from Machi. It's true that Type A Assassins does want to run you down at close range, but if anything goes wrong, they always have the Azir to fall back on, and it's still just interesting to see what teams have to answer against it, because so far there really hasn't been one in LMS, and nobody's been banning it. But we do see Callista and Twisted Fate being the last pick for Machi here. So that's something that they might have been talking about, something that they have kept under wraps until now, and so we'll see what that does for them if this Twisted Fate can make the plays in order to offset the natural advantage that TPA is going to have in this very strong Azir.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting game. So Machi, they want to have pick potential. If they can catch you out with the Fate's Call Braum, then they can follow up from there with pretty much everyone else going in, or they can have the TF try to get picks on the backside onto any of these really three carries. What's going to make that very difficult is the potential peel from Azir, the very high short-range damage that Type A Assassins have in every single role. Even the Bard will do decent amounts of damage, and of course the peel that the Bard brings to the table as well. So there is a lot of potential with this composition from TPA here, I have to say. I'm really excited to see how they're able to pull this off, because they have to get ahead, I feel. They have to go aggressive, because if they fall behind, then Machi may just be able to catch them out in different situations, in very poor situations where they might not be entirely prepared for it. And if TPA has to run at them, which is all that they really have, and they fall behind, then they're just going to fall apart.
Yeah, TPA might have the picks, but what I see on Machi's side is 3 teleports. They have, of course, the teleport summoner spell, and then Twisted Fate obviously has his ultimate to use as well. And if you saw right there, Azir actually went with the cleanse in order to try to peel off as many gold cards from himself as possible. But that's going to give TPA much fewer options when it comes to making plays around the mid game. And from what we've heard so far, Machi really likes to make those aggressive moves early.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they play it out. They definitely have a pretty good early game composition. Echo is definitely not bad as a tank early on. He gets progressively better and better as time goes on, but he's still never really in a terrible position. Kindred can gank a lot early, and she has a lot of good fighting potential very early on. It looks like we have a 5-stack from Machi. This is something that they tried to pull last time against TPA, and it's actually... yes, this is a 5-stack. I couldn't see Apex there for a second. Thought it was a 4-stack, but no, it is 5. They're going to get wards down, going to spot out lane swaps here, and maybe just try to get some intel onto Refrain here from TPA. So we have mirrored wards coming out from TPA, however, so nothing massively gained from Machi. They just forced the pretty typical response.
Well, we'll see in a minute here if we'll get the old LMS or the old LMS special with the extreme lane swapping and all 4 outer turrets going down in the first 10 minutes, because we see bot lane from Machi moving down after spotting out. No, actually, I don't believe they saw BB and Jay wandering around in their bottom jungle earlier. So this might actually be a standard lane matchup. I never thought I'd be saying that so soon in this LMS meta.
Yeah, it really seems like they definitely favored these lane swaps a lot, so it is really surprising to not see that here. We're going to have Gromp and Krug starts respectively for these teams, with the junglers soloing for the most part on the opposite side, just some light leashes from the top laners.
Yeah.
So nothing out of the ordinary. This is completely standard meta.
I actually, if anything for me, it's extraordinary just because I haven't seen this after watching primarily NALCS and then some of LMS, this is the first time I've seen standard lanes in a long time, and also no buddy system jungling. So who would you give the advantage to here in the bottom lane? Because Jay on Bard definitely has that early power, but Braum Kalista is a terrible lane to have to duel with.
Yeah, if Jay is able to play aggressively enough that he's getting poked down, but passively
Oh,
enough that
whoa.
he's
Speaking
out,
of poke down,
warning.
Warning taking a little bit more than just poke, but Boba's going to back off before taking a tower shot to the head.
Yeah, lots of damage coming out up there. That could be very, very good for Bobo up there already. But, man, it's hard to say who has the advantage in this lane. If Jay plays properly, then I think TPA will have the advantage because they have a lot more poke. But if Machi is allowed to go in at any point, with this Braum Kalista Terra lane that you mentioned, they're going to have a lot of kill pressure very, very quickly, and their damage is already just going to be much higher by default. So it could go either way. It depends on how well Jay plays. I think there's a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, they didn't go for, or Machi didn't go for any sort of level 2 power engage right there, and Bebe actually didn't even start the Ricochet. He went with the old Boomerang Blade into Spell Shield start, so Machi not taking advantage of the lack of push from the level 1 TPA bot lane, but other than that, this lane's going to go pretty standard. Just a few bits of poke going down onto each other from the supports, but other than that, not too much happening so far. Junglers making their way around too. There's the teleport back into the lane from Morning, who was actually already forced out by Bobo. And this was supposed to be a losing matchup in terms of skill, but Bobo gets stunned up against the wall. Speaking of which, he does have parallel
Taizon's
convergence
here.
for the shield right here. He might get it, but Taizon's there. Taizon's going to pick up first blood, and there it is.
Very, very good. He wasn't able to quite cash in his stack because he did mark refrain with his passive, but still getting first blood is definitely very, very good for this Kindred, rather. So that's a fantastic start. Now she can start pressuring into Refrain's jungle. Now Morning is behind in that matchup as well. This is as good of a win as you can get for Machi, I think, early on. And this is where they said their strength would lie, or they said this would be maybe just their least weak portion of the game. And they are showing up so far. They got to keep this rolling, though.
Yeah, I don't think Morning, or was it Morning? Yeah, I don't think Morning expected Taizon to be up there, since Taizon did start in the top side of the jungle, but
Yeah, especially not from that angle.
and Refrain, meanwhile, was all the way on the other side of the map, where he should have been after that jungle path. Decides to counter jungle a little bit, though, because Taizon did go back.
Yep, you got to take whatever punishment you can. At that point, you are not going to get anything done in any of the other lanes for the most part as Refrain, so may as well just try to counter jungle and keep that Kindred down. She is going Devour, which is something that we see in every single region for Kindred right now. So stealing these camps away will either delay the purchase of the Devour outright or lower the amount of stacks that she can get if she had it already.
But she's making her way towards her marked target right now, actually, in those Raptors.
actually
Refrain
really
not doing
valuable.
anything to try to stop that at all.
Yeah, that's actually really, really valuable for Taizon to be able to pick that up. That's something that is, I feel like, a pretty big portion of Kindred's damage. Overall, it can add up a significant amount if you can get up to even just 5 or 6 stacks. But that's not usually something that we see happen very often. So we'll have to see if Taizon is able to pull that off this match.
Well, if we see another Farm Fest, that may just happen, but we do already have 1 kill on the board, so 2 things already very different so far, the standard lanes and the early aggression from Machi, as they were bragging about in that early game, or in that pregame interview. Refrain going to kill off that ward and come back another day, perhaps for another try, but Kindred is actually making her way down bottom. Balbo gets the stun from the parallel convergence, and the Time Winder goes a little bit wide, but lands in Morning. Morning doesn't trade back much at all, throws the auto attack at him.
Yeah, really, I mean, kind of a whole lot of nothing happening up there. A little bit of trading, but so far, without jungler intervention, there's been not really many kills. Bobo nearly did lose a trade to Morning earlier, but
Here
Taizon
comes
was in
another
position-
one. He knows
Wow.
that the jungler's not there, and Bobo wants to go in deep again.
Yeah, pushing his level advantage and using his corrupting potion with how often he's able to apply those
So
stacks.
the
Jay,
stun might
oh my
land on a
God.
Jay here. Has to actually force flash away early, but Baby's now the one with the marks on him. D doesn't get the stun either on either of them, but that's going to force them back under the tower.
Tyzon is down in this area, but Refrain is as well. Both are spotted, I believe. Actually, no, Tyzon has not been spotted yet. Nobody knows that he's here.
That is the
Now that
flash down on Jay. He may be
Refrain,
looking for something more here. Instead, they're going to go on
they
to
weren't
Refrain.
ready.
Winter's Bite missing and forcing the flash away from him as well. Teleport canceled.
That was coming in from Bobo, so makes a lot of sense for him to not channel that through. If that was Apex, then I would have liked to actually see that completed. It would have just put him closer to mid anyway, but yeah, Bobo, I mean, that was a good call from Machi, I think, to try to pressure that immediately, but maybe a little bit overzealous with that teleport. It ends up being completely irrelevant and just going on cooldown now, so that's a lead for Morning. So that's something that he has, but here comes Apex.
Oh, they want to take that lead away. The
Oh,
Apex
red
with the
card.
red card gets it, but doesn't get a stun and gets booted away immediately.
Yeah, so now he's just going to have to walk away in a little bit of shame back to the mid lane. He's actually going to pick up the blue buff on the way, though, so it's not all a loss for Apex.
Oh, well, Machi now 0-2 for global plays attempted.
Yeah.
They do have one more shot right here. That's the strength of their comp right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we see
Yeah.
TPA absorbing it fairly gracefully.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely would like to see a little bit better use of these globals from Machi, but so far, it's been all right. They've at least forced people away with the globals. They haven't been entirely wasted, where they've just gone in and gotten killed with them or anything like that. So, and they're not major cooldowns really either. TP was canceled, so it's about a minute shorter than usual. And TF ult's not nearly as long as a TP cooldown.
Oh,
Ooh,
stun
very nice
though.
stun.
Nice stun, but no engage. Yeah, they're gonna. They're trying. I think after a few weeks of doing nothing until 25, this is a very good effort from Machi, and I'm happy to see that they're definitely trying their best. Fofo's going to get his blue buff to continue that poke-heavy composition or poke-heavy matchup in the mid lane, but you see it's actually fairly close, differing by only 4 CS here. Fofo's probably going to extend that a little bit with that wave into the turret. But Machi has a similar slim advantage in the bottom lane. Kalista actually taking the lead in that, probably because of that earlier pressure from Tyzan and that failed teleport.
Yeah, the pressure so far has been. I mean, there's been quite a bit top lane, honestly. There's been a lot of focus bottom from both these junglers recently, but the warding has just been really, really solid for both of these teams. That the junglers haven't really been able to pull anything off. So while they're putting the time down here, haven't really been able to get anything. Refrain's going up top now, looking to maybe pressure Bobo and try to get something done there. But Tyzon, he really, really wants this dragon because because of his devourer. That's 5 stacks plus all the other benefits of dragon, of course, as well. So that is an extremely valuable objective. Oh, there's Bobo.
Bobo ulting it back into lane on top of the ward, though.
Yeah, probably would have preferred to not be spotted out while doing that, but he is going to go in onto Morning again.
Yeah, Morning doesn't have the stun, doesn't land it either. But Hammer Shock for a little bit more damage. Bobo diving that past him with the phase dive. He takes a tower shot too. Doesn't have the ultimate to back out of this one, remember, but Morning still loses that trade.
Yeah, a little bit of armor built up for Bobo already, reducing a lot of the damage from Morning overall, and reducing a little bit of that tower damage as well.
Is that a Dark Seal?
It is a Dark Seal, yeah.
Already.
That's very standard on Tank Echo, actually.
So, Bobo doing his best Zion Spartan impression here. Tyzon dashes into the Cosmic Binding, but he's 1 versus 4 right now, but he knows he has a positioning. Ultimate actually gonna land on Apex, but he gets the kill onto Jay. Wow, that was a ton of damage.
And Bobo actually completes a teleport as well. He's going to look for a flank here, see what he can do.
Where's the rest of his team?
They
were
looking
solo
at Dragon
versus Bebe. Already pops his heal, but Apex around with the gold card. Flash away from Bebe. Does he have Spell Shield to block the card? Apex is going to land it. There's the Spell Shield. He has 2 people under turret now. He's going to die either way. Refrain gets the flash out of Apex. The ultimate's not going to kill him off because of the heal.
Oh, Bobo did end up going down.
Did he die to the minion wave?
I think he died to a few minion shots and red buff, potentially from Bebe. Maybe he didn't have red buff. I don't know. I don't know exactly what killed him. We should see a replay.
Yeah,
probably the minions.
It was definitely. It took a little bit too far. I thought he was gonna make it out of there because the tower was
too.
A couple seconds before that, and the last teleport gonna get him back in the lane. A 3-1 advantage for Machi. Okay, I take back what I said earlier about them not really using their globals correctly. Looks like they found
Yeah.
their stride.
Yeah, definitely. That was much better use of both their globals. And while it was still somewhat shaky, Apex getting hit by that Temper Fade immediately still got the kill with that red card onto Jay. And then Bobo, he completed his TP with nobody else in the area. And it seemed like he was just kind of chasing for no reason, but he ended up getting it. And on the backside of all of that, Machi, they fell back with the duo and the jungler, and they got that dragon. They got those Devourer stacks for Taizan as well. So massive, massive lead built up for them all of a sudden. 3 kills and the turret and a dragon.
Okay, and we saw that all of that confidence in TPA from those casters, and that it's already being put to a little bit of doubt here. But Machi does have that purported strong early game.
Mm-hmm.
And about that tempered fate from Jay, that timing would have to been instantaneous if he wanted to stop the empowered auto attack from Apex as he teleported in.
Yeah.
Bobo going in 1v2 to try to defend this turret, but he's already fairly tanky with the chain vest completed, and that's actually top lane turret taken by Dreamer and D.
And this might be a Rift Herald potentially. I don't see them going for this with Apex being pushed in. He's going to lose mid turret actually.
Yeah, they're just gonna trade that turret.
Oh, okay. That'll solve Fofo for a little bit. There's members here, Tyzon and Dreamer.
Yeah, he
That's like gonna make it.
uses the Azir passive to pop up that tower, but doesn't decide to stick around. Just wants to keep that wave shoved, I guess. I think this is going to set up TPA for some pressure in the side lanes, but seeing a couple recalls happening right now. And meanwhile, Machi's just going to take that Rift Herald.
Now 2 more stacks for Tyzon, so now that's 7 just from the big neutral objectives alone. That's a very large amount of stacks. I'd like to see how his stacks are doing so far, actually. But we'll probably see that in a moment. But so far, so good. He's well over 10 at this point, and that is pretty quick for only having it for 2-3 minutes.
Right, we do see a nice gold advantage accrued now by Machi in that extra turret, and a few CS leads in the top and bottom lane might be equalized a little bit by the amount of gold that Azir has over Twisted Fate, but Twisted Fate does also have that passive for just a little bit of a bonus.
Yeah, plus the 2 kills as well, so the CS is actually not only negated, but completely overthrown by Apex's KDA so far.
Mm-hmm.
The 1 kill is basically negated from the CS lead of Fofo, but aside from that, all of the rest of it is pretty much just pure profit for Apex, and he's in a pretty good position so far. He's farming decently well for how much he's roamed. He's already used 2 ults basically on cooldown and gotten quite the reward for really both of them. He did pull the ultimate out of Morning when he went top.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Bobo is going to be extending down here. There's members waiting in the tri-brush. They're actually just going to back instead, so no threat.
No threat, despite Apex being all the way up in the top lane. His ultimate can't quite reach that far, but Bobo gets to live another day. TPA decides to back off that one. They're going to go up to try to respond to Apex a little bit here, but that actually causes Dreamer and D to start moving up there as well. And we see Machi making the power play with 4 people up in this top side of the jungle. Now Refrain might get a little bit caught out here. Flash engaged from Dreamer. Forces the flash from Dreamer. Oh, that is a nice tempered fate from Jay, but he isn't able to keep the rest of the team from coming in here. Tyson's actually in trouble right now, forced to pop the ultimate to stay alive. Morning's going to stay alive, but because of that too, the heal comes out, but he goes down, and that's a boomerang blade to damage D and Dreamer, who took almost nothing up until that point. Fofo coming around now, has the long range to engage, but isn't able to kill off Dreamer. And that's another 1-for-0 for Machi.
Yeah, nice, very nice in and out from Machi there. They were able to take that fight, basically a 4v5, and Bobo is still just split pushing down bottom. They even get a kill for it, get out cleanly, and now they're pressuring 2 lanes at once, maybe even 3 if Apex can get a good push in mid. Bobo a little bit scared of Jay.
Bobo made it all the way to the inner turret while that was happening, so not a good
taking it
scenario
down
for
to half.
TPA.
All right, so we will see a replay here. Yeah, Refrain, he gets caught out. Tempered Fate, absolutely beautiful from Jay, however. But what's really, really big here is Morning walks up and he flashes in, doesn't have anything left, and then he gets gold carded out of his ultimate. So his ultimate was never even cast. He got stunned in the middle of the wind-up, so It went on cooldown, wasn't able to be used in the fight. The Lamb's Respite was beautiful from Tizen as well. It kept himself alive and didn't keep any of the enemies alive, and it healed all of his allies, which ended up working out perfectly for what Machi wanted there. And now they're up 4-1, now 2-1 in turrets, and still up that one dragon, 30 seconds on that timer.
Ghost gonna spot out TPA, but they engage
Oh,
anyway. D takes a little bit of damage. Jumps away though. That gives TPA positioning on this mid lane, but the outer turret's already down. They're gonna have to move up quite a bit further if they want to pressure this inner turret. And that puts them in a scary position here.
I don't think Machi can really force and engage very comfortably here. They don't have very many ways to go in consistently, and the Azir turret's in the way as well.
They do have a ton of teleports up right now, but
Here comes
Bobo's
Bobo.
already here. Parallel Conversion's not going to get stunned. He's going to take a ton of damage in response.
That's actually a fine trade, though. He takes a lot of damage, so he'll have to back, but that zones the rest of TPA off enough that Machi can slip in and get to their tier 2. Now they can defend. Bobo can ult back or TP back if necessary. Doesn't look like he will do either yet. Ooh, ties on. Whoa, very close.
What hit him? Was it just the Azir?
It was pretty much just the Azir, yeah, and a bunch of Sivir damage as well.
Geez, so we've got an Azir with 1.5 items, and he's already got Machi on the run. So Machi really trying to bank on their early game strength, but we see it might be already waning a little bit 18 minutes into the game as TPA is going to set up for Dragon number 1 for them. Try to deny that stack. Is that Devourer done yet? No, it is not.
22 stacks, though. 22 stacks is definitely far from the best that I've seen, but it's definitely not the worst. That's really impressive to me for a pro game to have 22 stacks at 18 minutes. So that'll be done in the next few minutes for Tyson Hill. He just needs to go into his own jungle, get those stacks as much as possible, get the Herald, get the Scuttlers, and then just maybe even try to bank on getting kills or assists to get a lot of those other ones. There is a lot of movement from Machi up into this top side again. TPA is pretty much completely blind. They'll have no response.
A little bit of deja vu here as Machi gets positioning again. They're not going to catch out Refrain this time, who's a little bit wiser, but he has to back away from the turret if he doesn't want to die. Morning decides to call off the recall despite half health already, and that's the turret for Machi.
Yeah, very nice rotation from them there. Just, again, catching TPA in a blind spot. And now they're going to be moving down as 4 for that Rift Herald with Bobo split pushing bottom. They have the TPs available. Apex can go elsewhere if necessary and split push as well.
Well, they've got about 15 seconds to take this Rift Herald, so we'll see if they actually decide to try. But no, they have to. TPA has to back off and defend against Bobo, who is back at it again. Morning this time going to find him with the stun. Tower's almost dead though. He does get the shield from Parallel Conversion, so Morning still wants to fight this. Bobo does have his ultimate to back out, but no, he just decides to run instead. And no fight taken from Bobo.
Yeah, he's getting some pings on his mini-map there towards the right side of mid, where TPA was going into the jungle, dipping into the darkness in his direction. Didn't want to risk getting collapsed on by 2 or 3 more members and just getting completely caught out there, because while Tank Echo is the highest win rate tank at the moment, he is not invincible. He can still die very easily, especially if caught up by multiple members, so a lot of respect there from Bobo, but I have to applaud Machi for how well they're playing around the power of this double TP and the TF ult as well. They're using the split pushing power of the Tank Echo just in general very, very well.
They haven't even had to use any of those globals for a while now, just simply out-rotating TPA, who keeps backing at inopportune moments. They are going to be able to defend their mid laner, or defend their mid lane turret against Apex here, though. But see, they're still sticking around here as Machi makes moves around the edges of the map. And if I'm one to predict the future, I feel like TPA is about to get out-rotated again. Bobo's down yet again in the bottom lane.
Yeah, Apex is now up top again. 3 globals to group with. The TPs do extend the entire map, so whoever has to be somewhere else, they can definitely get there very quickly, and the TF ult can even take you somewhere in between if you don't want to burn that big TP cooldown in order to cross only half the map or something. But the pressure is being dispersed by TPA because they're able to clear out mid consistently, and they're not able to apply pressure here. Machi needs to apply pressure in mid as well in order to take full advantage of these split pushers, and they're just not able to do that right now with the Azir.
Yeah, Azir almost single-handedly dictating the movements around the map right now.
So much AP coming out with that Nashor's Tooth into Abyssal build. It's not really the most aggressive build that you can go for Abyssal second, but it's safe enough that it gets the job done, but it gives enough AP that it still gives you the wave clear that you need. So really smart itemization from Fofo, especially with all of the AP damage coming out from Apex and Bobo this game.
Yeah, Abyssal Scepter, a very good catch-all item for mid laners against their AP opponents, but with that cleanse, I think that gives him a little, just the confidence that he needs in order to play this mid lane like the way he wants to, just so he can step a little bit further forward to keep the lane pushed up and not have to fear getting caught out by a weird teleport flank from Machi. And TPA now shoving towards the middle inner turret. Few recalls coming out from Machi right now, but they're confident that they can hold this off either way. And that's actually TPA forced to split off to the side because they want this bottom turret instead?
That seems kind of risky putting members down there. There's pings up in the direction of the Baron for Machi, and even if they don't start the Baron itself, this gives them vision control.
Yeah, they've got a finished Devourer, but not a Blade of the Ruin King or anything out of Taizan just yet, just opting to go for the Phantom Dancer instead. Machi gets positioning on both Baron and mid lane turret, though.
Yeah, but the wave clear from Sivir, just a little bit too much, especially with that Shiv second. Something I'm seeing a lot more now. When Sivir first came back into the meta with that change a few patches ago, a lot of Sivers were actually going Phantom Dancer, just because that gives you a little bit more dueling power if necessary. But now I'm starting to see more go Shiv in a lot of different situations, and they just really want to double down on that wave clear, it seems. Bobo might be a little bit caught. There's 3 members top for TPA, but again, that's dispersing their defense.
And yeah, and that static shift from Sivir is going to be super effective against this Machi composition, who isn't really built for the siege. Not that they've needed any help at all getting the inner turrets that they've gotten so far, so it may be a little bit too little too late for TPA right here, but they're going to be able to hold off any further direct aggression right now, and again, we haven't seen those globals from Machi in a while. Let's just see if they can make use of them. Winter's Bite going to hit Refrain, who dashes away from Taizan. Parallel Conversion is not going to land, though, and that's another failed engage. Many signs of aggression, but nothing to happen so far.
I think this is really what Machi needs to do, though. They don't have a lot of siege potential. Like you said, Bobo, he's going in onto 3.
Yeah, he's definitely doing, but decides to run out of there instead. Refrain kind of zigzagging a little bit back and forth. He's indecisive about what he wants to do right now. He's going to get stunned. No, dashes away just in time as Jay is actually forced a magical journey through the wall. TPA still doesn't have the positioning that they want around here to be able to fight this, or maybe they don't want to fight at all, just trying to keep Machi at bay as they try to figure out their next move.
Yeah, I think TPA, they just want to be they just are content with farming up at this point. They want to have Machi just rolling farm into them consistently, into the Azir, into the Sivir. Just let them get maybe one more item before they're really comfortable with fighting. Even then, though, if they're getting picked off, if they're being pressured like this and are at risk of getting picked off like they have been for the last few minutes, this could be risky. Bebe, a little bit caught out.
Spell Shield to block a phase dive damage actually walks out, but that's Bobo forced to ult very early. Now against 3 people, his rest of his team is running up. Phase dives over the wall. Wow, such a slippery champion.
Yeah. 40% CR Echo is really hard to catch, definitely at every point in the game. Apex, meanwhile, he's just farming up bottom lane.
It looks like they've traded roles a little bit here.
Yeah. So what Machi's trying to do here with all their pressure in the jungle is we might see Refrain walking into a trap here. Be smart enough to not do it, however. So what they're looking for is, because they're all so short range, they don't have a lot of siege. So they're trying to abuse the split push, force TPA to walk through their jungle, which Machi has warded very well.
Whoa,
that's actually a huge cooldown. That's a really big cooldown. Apex can go in safely now.
Wow, yeah, and the almost immediate Destiny from Twisted Fate.
Going bottom, though. He's going to just go split push again. He still has teleport available. This is 4 members for Machi. This is all they really need.
You mean to do the Baron? Because
I think this is all they need to stall for a little bit. Apex is going to have pressure bottom. It's going to take too long for Morning to try and recall back. It's
Yeah,
going to have
Bobo
to
actually
walk
teleported
instead.
recently as well.
Yeah,
But oof, so much
this
damage.
is going to
Morning
be a
coming around
Baron.
the side
Baron for Machi. They're
slowly.
starting it.
Wow,
Oh
yeah,
no,
they back
back
off right
off.
now. Is that the mark onto the Baron?
Yes, the mark does go onto the Baron
Oh, I
now.
didn't actually know that, but that seems a little bit difficult to prioritize at 27 minutes into the
Yeah, a
game,
little
right?
bit. But that's the only. You'll usually get marked onto the Baron like that when you can't get marked onto any other jungle camps. So if you're at 6 stacks or higher on the Kindred passive, which Tyzone is at 6, so yeah, it only marks the Baron when it can't mark any other camp. So that's why that is marked right now.
Yeah,
Started again for Machi.
yeah. It
They're
seems like it was
really
just
trying to get this, but they just can't quite do it.
it was the tasty morsel that really tempted Tizen to want to make that call, but they can't do it. They can't finish that one off because TPA is now making their way down the mid lane, finally gaining a push advantage for themselves. As Morning sticks around bottom to try to keep Apex away from his turret. But
And we see a complete vision reversal from TPA in their red jungle. They have vision around every single corner now, and zero vision for Machi all of a sudden. Complete reversal of just a moment ago. And that's actually going to be a fairly big deal for TPA because now they can rotate safely between top and mid lane, which is something that Machi was trying to abuse before. I don't think TPA is going to let this vision go anytime soon either. I don't think Machi is going to be able to get into the position that they were in before again. Not for a very long time.
I still think they're holding on to their cards. You know, they're just not really willing to pull the trigger anymore. Maybe they feel like their early game is over and that they lack the confidence in their mid game and their late game team fighting. But we see their teleports and their their destiny and gate are more often up than they are not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just been Bobo trying to pull a little bit pressure on the side.
Oh, he may have caught Bebe here again.
Bobe's been
Nice
pretty
spell
good at
shield,
getting out
but
of
is
these
it enough?
situations before because Jay is often there to help him out. But that's the flash engage from Dreamer on the refrain. He will go down here.
Ooh.
Bebe was actually still running all the while. Had to pop his ultimate, so that's no on the hunt to save his team right here either. But Dreamer getting pulled back by the Fates call. TBAJ going to walk around the side and miss Magical Journey to try to get in position, but Machi's already out of there after taking that kill.
Yeah, and the wards were fading from TPA. They didn't let Machi get vision control again, but they didn't keep their own vision up all that well. Little Crab goes down for TPA though, so that's a big advantage for them for spotting out this Baron.
Ooh,
Bobo
yeah,
going in again.
That Scuttle Crab unlucky for Machi because they're going to lose a little bit of positioning that they had right
Gonna
here.
go
But they're
for it
going to start the
anyway.
Baron anyway.
They can burn this down really quickly. There's still no smite from Refrain still being dead.
They have no Fates Call. They have no Glacial Fissure or Gate Destiny as well. But that's the twist. Tempered Fake and a miss completely. Machi's so low right now. TPA has this fight. Tyzon forced to pop the Lamb's Respite. And Dreamer actually also very low. Tyzon's in the middle of the team. He's going to die. And Fofo continuing to go on here. He doesn't have quite the range to get onto Dreamer. But he was so thirsty for that kill too. Apex and Dreamer both limping away from that one. Just barely.
Yeah, Machi. They ended up getting caught in the one situation that they tried so hard to avoid for the last 10-15 minutes. The reason that they haven't tried to take a team fight has not only been because maybe their lack of confidence in this phase of the game, but also because of TPA's team fight comp being really scary. All TPA has to do is just run at you, like we mentioned in Champ Select with this Sivir composition. We're going to see a replay again here. So Bobo, he dives really far back and takes so much damage. He's actually ignited while he ults as well, so the Grievous Wound that keeps the ult healing down, and Tyzon, he just cannot escape from his own respite there, unfortunately, and his team has to abandon him.
Yeah, I think with such a short-ranged composition from Machi, you don't take a fight like that. You don't try to chase them down when you are missing already 3 of your long-range engage ultimates.
Yeah, they were trying to use Team Liquid strategy there that we saw versus CLG, where they're just on the Baron, pull off, on the Baron, pull off, on the Baron, pull off, just trying to catch CLG off guard, trying to catch their opponents off guard, in this case TPA, of course.
And
And
that just doesn't work when you're the team that's
yeah,
supposed to be avoiding Baron, right? The
yeah. And
other team is the
when
one
you're
that
the
wants to be in the Baron pit, not you.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And when you're the team that is really kind of lacking in easily abusable engage. In Team Liquid's composition, they had Bartle. They were throwing Tempered Fates. Matt was on point with them. Machi does not have that. The best thing that they have for engage is maybe a Fates Call Braum into his own Glacial Fissure, but that is so hard to land effectively. That's so hard to land often, and it's not worth using as an engage tool in a lot of situations. So then all they have really left is Apex getting a pick, which he's been split pushing the whole time. He's not even been ready to do that, or Bobo finding someone. Speaking of Apex, though, he's really caught out here.
Oh, there's refrain from the side. I think Apex is out of this one. Guess Destiny to try to escape, but no, doesn't have the time to pull that off.
Yeah, that's really not good for Machi. They're getting picked apart. They're falling apart at the seams now. And they're going to have to try to pull it back together and just pull back and just relax with the split pushing comp. Just get back to split pushing safely, apply pressure on the opposite side of the map properly. That's really what they need to be doing. They don't want to risk Bobo getting caught out on a split push now. He has TP, but he's just sitting with the team. And now that's TP on Baron.
Yeah, so this is Machi's problem then. If they really believe that their mid and late game is that bad, it might just be because they don't know what to do once their middle turrets are down, or once the enemy middle turrets are down, because they lose so much positioning on the map. But that's actually TPA forced away by the Glacial Fissure. They're also slow. An early Locket Shield, but Morning does get the stun, but Fates Call immediately to save his support from D, and that's the successful disengage from Machi. Oh, but
Yeah.
Apex actually ended up dying. Oh, that was from earlier. He's still
Yeah,
dead.
that was from. Yeah, he was still dead. The death timers are really long right now. Still dead from that split pushing accident that he had a little while ago. But he will be coming back online now. He has a teleport, which is why TPA pulled out of that engage. They didn't really burn all that much. They only burned 2 ultimates for it. The Tempered Fate just went completely wide, though, and the Glacial Fissure, the slow is strong enough to disengage off of the Sivir ult engage. And that's, again, that's the only thing that TPA has. It's very, very strong, but Machi does have some answers to it. But it felt like they had to put so much effort into just running away and getting out successfully there. This feels probably really uncomfortable for Machi still. I don't think that they know how to win with this composition at this point. They are back to split pushing, though.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
1 second here. Yeah, I feel like TPA had the time to get that Baron. I feel like if TPA had been a little bit more decisive right there, that would have been a huge disadvantage for Machi.
Yeah, and that would have been something for TPA to be able to roll on through the rest of the game with something like that, with a play like that on the Baron. Getting that as early as they would have, really. It's past 30 minutes, but it still would have been fairly early. And there's no sieging, and there's really no wave clear, no very good wave clear for Machi either. So if TPA gets Baron, they don't have great siege either, but it doesn't really matter if Machi can't even clear the regular minion waves. They definitely can't clear Baron minions in that case, and Bobo and Apex, they're looking for picks again, but this is Zero Turret. It's just going to deter them entirely, and TPA, they're just completely set up here.
Yeah, Fofo is the backbone of this composition. You're right, they don't have a very siege-focused comp, but who needs to build a composition around siege when you have a Zero on your team? Instead, they're just gonna back out. That decides to not play or not to try their luck in that horrible position, surrounded by on all sides by Machi, and they're gonna back off. Trying to set up around Baron again, but I think they've already lost their stride in that area. Yeah, that's a recall from Jay.
They're really, really trying to push this Baron, and it does make sense. For TPA, but Apex...
No, Apex might die again here. He has the gold card to stun up Morning. Morning can't fight him straight out. He knows he's going to get disengaged on, but stops the split push for now.
Yeah, that is 4 items, actually, for Apex as well. So Morning will definitely lose that fight in the long run. It's just a matter of how long will it quite take, or will it exactly take, for Apex to win that fight. There's really no telling, because it doesn't seem like either of these members really want to take a fight unless they have a very blatant advantage over the other. And so we just see more disengaging and even more farming. We were hoping to not see that stall for 25 minutes and then win the game strat in the LMS. We've seen a different version here. We've seen the kind of look like you're playing aggressive and then just sit back for 15, 20 minutes in the middle of the game.
Well, this was foreshadowed by the interviews earlier. I think both of these teams agree that their mid to late game is just a little bit on the weaker side. You're right that I really feel like you're correct when Machi doesn't really know what to do with their composition at this point in time. They've already taken down 2 of the inner turrets, and they can't seem to find positioning on the inhibitor turrets without getting picked off, like Apex was earlier.
Yeah, and so to expand on that point a little bit more, to not just leave it at, well, they don't know how to play their composition, and that's what's happening here. The way that they need to play their composition is they need to be getting picks, which is what we saw earlier. They got Vision top lane, and they were forcing TPA to rotate between top and mid repeatedly by using the split push from Bobo and or APEC. And then they were trying to catch TPA in the rotations and pick them off when their team was split. And that's what they really need to do. They can't take a straight up 5v5 against TPA because TPA's composition just flows really, really well together that if even just one piece is missing, then it will either somewhat collapse. It won't collapse entirely because even just 4 members of this TPA squad will be able to make something work. It won't collapse necessarily unless it's the Sivir that gets picked, but it can also really hit the confidence of TPA from not wanting to take fights that they might have been able to win if they're just down a member.
Right, I think at this point, if Machi is able to get the positioning for a pick on a TPA, they are able to delay long enough for the rest of the team to show up. We do have Sivir with the spell shield, and Refrain's getting very tanky, and Morning obviously being the tank, going to be hard to pick off in the amount of time that you have before your enemy is all gathered around you. But I was hoping to see more aggressive moves from Apex. He's really just been walking back and forth when the power of that Destiny is really allowing you to get behind enemy lines without having to do that.
Yeah, the big issue that he's had is that TPA's comp is just really, really good at falling back and collapsing onto anybody that dives into the back. Even if just Bobo dives in, even though he's so tanky, I mean, Tempered Fate can hit you and keep you distracted, and then TPA, in that case, can just run at the other 3 or 4 members and then just run them over instead and then turn around and fight you. If you can't make that engage work, and the way that you make that engage work is not only getting in, but also getting actual engage off. Teleporting in behind 5 members of the enemy team doesn't mean anything if you're instantly hit by a Zhonya's effect or stunned or just blown up. It matters when you hit that gold card onto a priority target. It matters when you get a good parallel convergence. It matters when you're dealing damage to someone meaningful and the rest of your team is also pressing from the front and able to just kind of squeeze TPA into a corner and just try to pick them apart from there. And they've just not really been able to find it. The vision trading has been very, very interesting. It's so small.
Refrain one more time in the front lines. Glacial Fish are going to hit BB instead, but he has on the hunt. They're going to run around a little bit here. They don't really seem to know what they're doing because they're waiting for Morning to teleport in, and Morning actually runs in the opposite direction as well. This is like a Civil War siege going on right here. Neither team actually advancing into each other. But Machi, TPA is so hesitant to take this because they feel like they're behind, but they have the stronger composition, and they just don't want to fight this.
Yeah, they don't have the confidence to try to take the risk. Instead, they're just going to go for the more secure play, and they're going to go for this mid turret that they have the ankle on. Oh, yeah, D was caught on that backside there. He couldn't get around to his base. Now he's here. It might be too little too late.
There's only 3 people around there for a few seconds there. I was wondering, where'd the rest of the team go? Azir was definitely taking a bite out of them, but ooh, actually, the wave clear from TPA, not enough to let them advance on this turret just yet.
Yeah, I mean, Apex does provide pretty decent wave clear. It's not as amazing as TPA's is, because it will still take a few seconds, but it'll be good enough to really thwart more than a handful of autos onto this turret. And that's TPA. They get the angle. It looks like they almost get a fight that they want. They pull globals, and then they get nothing. They get nothing for it again. It's just vision trades. Yeah. I mean, it's just more vision trading around the Baron now. That's the only result. They take the big fight, They look like they have a good engage, a good angle, but they don't press it hard enough. They get nothing, and now Machi's on the Baron. TPA has no vision.
Yeah, I think this is going to be every NALCS's team's worst nightmare, where they lose the fight. They lose the one fight at 40 minutes, and then the game is over. But there's Tempered Fate to stop the Baron for now. Taizan bouncing away from that one. Ooh. BB, though, Glacial Fissure is not already out as well. That's 2 ultimates down. The stun onto Bobo, but he's so tanky right now. No follow-up from TPA. And the same thing happens. Again, Azir, meanwhile, was going to town, but he's only able to get people down to about half health.
He even stole the blue buff with his soldiers.
Is that going to give the TPA the advantage that they feel they need to finally do something around here? No, Fofo, despite having the blue buff, is out of mana. That's 4 recalls from TPA.
I'm assuming they're sitting on a lot of money here.
Yeah, that's probably... I'm guessing that's probably what's happening here, but Machi is also doing the same. That's both teams recalling for now, which means that the entire situation is completely reset.
Yeah, and that's a turret falling for Machi in the bottom lane as well. There's been no focus anywhere except for mid and the Baron. And speaking of Baron, TPA, they're on it. They got the journey in. Machi, they're caught off guard. They can't get here in time.
It's made a full... actually, it was a flash ultimate from Warning to force away the enemy member. Apex caught now. Lamb's Respite to save his life right here, though. But that's only 3 members from Machi right here so far. Double kill for Graves. And the Graves kick comes out huge. I believe those are his first 2 kills so far.
Really nice collateral damage off. Emperor's Divide just pushes them out of the Lamb's Respite, and then the collateral damage snipes them off at the end. Really, really nice from TPA. The journey use there. Why didn't they do that earlier? That was so smart. They catch Machi off guard. Even with vision there, they can't respond in time. And now they're ahead in gold. They were down 3-4K, and now they're ahead. Now they broke the inhib. They're on to the Nexus turrets.
And wow, yeah, everything's turned on its head in the last 30 seconds here. TPA now completely even in kills and gold, but they do have the advantage of the Baron buff right here. Nexus turrets now going down. That's 1 down so far. Bobo can't do anything because 2 of his teammates are still dead. He might die soon too. Parallel Conversion is going to do nothing. Dreamer's the only person left defending this turret because D is off on the side trying to dual refrain, and that's both Nexus turrets down so far. This is the end of the game right here. Keeper's verdict to keep them away, and that's the game for TPA.
Man. That was a very interesting lull right in the middle. Just teams trying to find the exact engage that they needed. TPA, they pulled the trigger in the end. They show maybe some of their veteran colors there at the very end of that game. Pulling the trigger on a Baron like that with a journey into the pit, there's no escape if that goes wrong. There's nothing left for that team if it goes wrong. But they pulled it off. They nailed it exactly when they needed to.
Yeah, if anything, if we're going to give TPA full credit here, they drew out that game so long that even Morning was able to pull a very healthy CS lead over his opponent, and at that point, they simply outscaled the enemy team and were able to go full force. But, yeah, I don't even know if that would have been possible without the magical journeys to get them through the jungle so fast. They just made such a beeline for that Baron, and Machi definitely caught unawares. And that's really all they needed to finish off that game. It took them 40 minutes, but they eventually did it. And we'll see what they decide to do for Game 2 coming up next.